Well, welcome. We're back for our last video, our last week of class, and I can't believe how the time has flown. It's November, and I just want to do a couple things today. I want to remind us of where we started and where we're going. I want to talk about some resources I put on the course page around innovation and experimenting into the future, and then I want to talk about our last group hangout and the topics for that. So first, let's go to when we looked back at the beginning. What were the objectives of this class? We had 5 of them, and I just want to review what we put out at the beginning. First is to explore a theology of change, specifically with an eye towards a congregation or some particular ministry setting. One of my hopes is that as you've been engaging these things each week, you're not looking at this just from one angle, but there's always this question of what is God's place in this, and how is it different dealing with change in a context of which God is a primary actor, not just in an organization, a nonprofit, or a business or a school setting, but a place where we actually claim that God is present in this work. So I hope that whether you could write a theology of change paper, which if you were in my class at seminary, I would have you do, but you have been able to kind of dwell in that and maybe just even reflect as you end this class. What are some really key ideas for you as you think about a theology of change? Second, to gain an understanding of some key resources that are available not only to you from a Christian perspective or from a congregational perspective, but what are the other kinds of resources available as we think about change and conflict within systems, particularly congregations. I hope that each week, both the ones that we read and the suggested readings and maybe the ones you gave one another are a good place to start with those. If you're looking for some specific other ones, please let me know. I'd be happy to. I have a big bibliography that I use, and I'd be happy to connect you with some of those. Third is to become aware of some key issues as we lead change and conflict in congregations. This is a quick course in so many ways. And so hopefully each of these just gave you a little bit of an insight into each of these areas, but clearly we could talk for more than 6 weeks on just conflict and how to lead through that in and of itself. But hopefully thinking of systems and innovation and who you are as a leader and contextual issues, how about all of those come together to make you aware of what are some key things to think about as you're moving through leading change. Fourth, I know that you've been actively engaged with your peers as you think about all of these things. And I know, and I'm hopeful to hear more about that this coming week, that they have been a great resource for you and probably brought the richness and the depth and breadth to this experience that I hope that you're all changed and moved by that. And finally, that you would engage a case study, that you would take all this material and you would work it through your particular setting or a particular setting that you're familiar with. One of the things that is a tension, I think, in leadership and is one of the issues that we have here at Luther Seminary when people are kind of in between context. We can talk about leading change, but if you don't know the particulars of, this setting has this kind of people, it's had this kind of history, it's got these kind of demands right now, that changes the system, the issues in so many ways. And so working this not just from the ideas at a high level, but in the midst of ongoing work that you have to be doing with any setting is really important. So that's the first thing that I wanted us to talk about. The next thing that I want to do is I want to let you know what I put on the site. So this last week, you talked about experimenting our way into the future. As of this video, there were no feedback loops into the site, and so I didn't have any specific things to talk about with you there. But I am grateful that you've opened that up, and I think it's a great place to end, because as I look at leading into this future, we are off the map in so many ways. We are leading into times where we haven't been before. Even if there's some experiences that are similar, there are so many things that are different than we've ever been before. We haven't been in a time of the way that the society accepts or doesn't accept religion and people's time and people's view of God and the role that it plays it plays as we make these decisions. So I hope that experimenting your way into the future is a great way to launch this in a positive way. There are so many ways to do experiments, and there's so many kind of things to think about. The 2 resources that I put on that page are Agile Church by my colleague Dwight Shiley. Great resource. A book he just finished. He's been doing some speaking on that this year and actually working with action reflection groups as they've tried experiments and learned from each other. Maybe that's something that you want to look to. Maybe you want to have conversation partners with this as a leader or your congregation. So I think that's a great thing to think about as you think about experimenting. But this book that a Jewish rabbi and I just finished called Leading Congregations and Nonprofits in a Networked World, Platforms, People, and Purpose. We have a chapter on innovation. And my colleague was the primary author of that chapter, and he created this 4-fold way of looking at innovation based on our research that we did with congregations and the other kinds of consulting we've done. And so I made available to you a PDF of the rough draft version that we have of that book. That book comes out in 2 weeks. And you can look more if this is of interest. That whole chapter in the book will be available beyond that. But I put that PDF on the class site, and please use that for your own purposes. Don't share it beyond that. But I thought that this would be a timely kind of way to use that resource. So that's the second thing. The third thing is this week, I would love to, if you would tell me when you're meeting, I will send out an email about that and that I could join in. I'd love to learn about where you are in this journey. In the syllabus, I wrote, this week is the 7th inning stretch in the ballgame. It's not the end. We're not finished. But it's a time to get up and shake up and maybe sing. Take me out to the ballgame if you want. But a step back and say, what have I learned? And now what do I have to do as I look into the last piece of what's going on? The 4 questions that are in the syllabus are this. Looking back, how has this course helped you understand your case study a little bit more deeply? What's the problem, the challenge? What's the center of what's going on? Maybe what you thought you started with isn't what you ended. Maybe you had really one primary way of getting through it, and now you have 2 or 3 primary ways that you could see it playing out. Whatever, maybe there's some more resources you have. Second, in what ways has addressing this problem helped you understand yourself and your setting more clearly? I know that every day as I'm leading change, I'm learning stuff about myself, specifically when I get caught in something or somebody else says something reflective and I go, I had never thought about that. And I wonder, what did I miss? What did I learn? What's a new resource? So learning about those 2 things. And what questions do you still have as you're moving into around this case? Are there things that you need to keep working on? Maybe the last 2.5 innings that you have here are investigating some more, going back to one of these questions that you did and pushing this case a little bit further. Third, as you end this course, what is 1 or 2 things you want to learn more about? Just for your own sake of being a leader or for this context? I don't know about you, but as I dive into any kind of learning, no matter how novice or experienced I am, I come out with questions at the end. And I would love for you to just even write those down, think about those, and wonder, what does that mean for my next thing of learning? Maybe it's on your own. Maybe it's with a partner. Maybe you need to just investigate options for that. Maybe it's a book that you can find. And last, I would love for you to spend some time affirming each other. This work of leading is so hard. I don't care if your context is embracing it or is fighting it. It is hard work. And it's not often that people stop and give us affirmations. And so I would love for you to do that with each other and for each other. You have been vulnerable with each other. You have made space in each other's lives for this class and for this work. And so if that's in the form of prayer and affirmations, I trust that into however you best see that fitting. But those are the things that I bring to you. I want to thank you for being part of this experiment. This is one of the first classes. We've done 3 maybe other classes of lifelong learning online. And so you'll be getting some feedback, a feedback form to ask from lifelong learning. What did you learn? What was helpful? What would you do different in the future? So I thank you for being part of this adventure, this experiment, if you will, for offering feedback, and most of all, for learning about what it is to lead change in God's church. Thank you.